Welcome to the Journey to Happy podcast, a podcast dedicated to help you in the process of getting out of your own way and letting go of the mental barriers that have been self created that stand on the way of you and the emotional freedom and happiness that you so desire. I am Olga, your host, and in here I'm going to offer you raw but real examples that will help you step into the shoes of becoming the CEO of your own life. Because let's face it, in a world where you can be anyone you want, why not promote yourself to the CEO position? I cannot wait to see you inside. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Journey to Happy. I am Olga, your host, and I am very, very excited to be talking about how to stop the mean voice that lives inside our head. Now, if you don't think you have a mean voice, I think that's amazing, but still listen carefully because you might realize that deep inside of you, there might be a bit of a mean voice that gets the best out of you. One of the dilemmas that many of my coaching clients come with when they first sign up for coaching is an obstacle that they feel is in front of them and that they cannot get past it, and therefore their progress, whether that's in relationships or emotionally or with regards to their mental health, cannot be fully made because they feel that they themselves are standing on their way to progress. Like they cannot let that obstacle be removed. And so part of the work I do is help them identify their mindset. What about their mindset currently is not super helpful and is stopping them from progress? And this is what I call the mean voice. What is this mean voice? And how does it manifest itself? Most times when I have clients who have low confidence, who are feeling discouraged, and who have anxiety or depression, I am able to link back those emotions of anxiety, discouragement, and depression to some of their thinking. We all say this so regularly. Oh, I am my worst enemy. I know that. And then we just move on. Like we're happy with that conclusion and we don't feel the urgency or the need to do something about it. We kind of become complacent that, yeah, that's the way it is. I am my worst enemy and that's the way it is. But the reality is that we hate it. We don't like living with the enemy in the house. So I want to talk to you about how to lower or how to change the conversation inside your mind that is bullying you, that is having an impact in your well-being and in your confidence levels and in your self-love. So first and foremost, we got to recognize that the voice is there. One of the work I have personally really leaned on is understanding my inner conversations. Because we talk all day long to ourselves, we have so many thoughts inside our head. We're not aware of all of them. And that's what I call being an autopilot. We just kind of got so used to having all these thoughts in the head that we are not always super aware of them. And because we're not aware of them, we can't really detect them when they're really mean. But what we can detect most times is our emotional well-being. So when we're feeling down, blue, depressed, sad, discouraged, anxious, we can all point at those because they speak really loudly. They have an impact on our physical feelings. And so we can say, oh my God, I'm not feeling happy. I'm feeling discouraged. And I know that because of all these symptoms, but not always do we link it back to the way we're thinking. So I'm going to tell you a story because this happened to me for real. A while back, I met this woman who I met her while I was trying to conceive. If you are new to my podcast, something that I talk about in other podcasts is that I struggle with fertility for a long time. I was trying to conceive for 4.5 years, actually 5, until the day I actually held my baby boy in my arms. And for all of those years, I, trust me, tried everything in my power to conceive. But throughout that journey, I met somebody, maybe you've heard me tell this story before, but I think it's very relevant in this subject because we tend to believe things that we're not supposed to. So I met this lady, and she knew I was trying to conceive. She had been a part of my journey from the beginning. And she told me that I was never going to become a mom. And that if I did become a mom, I was going to be a bad mom. She told me that my husband was going to leave me because who would want to stay married to a woman who cannot bring babies into the world? She also told me that I must have been paying a karma from a past life because, or else, what other explanation could there be that to me trying to conceive without any other apparent physical issues? Because I had unexplained infertility. They never found anything wrong with either one, my husband or I, yet we couldn't conceive. She told me this was never going to happen. She would remind me this on a regular basis. She said I should be happy being an aunt and just, close this dream of mine already and move on, to be happy that I'm coaching so many women and that those were my children. And that's it. The sad part is that I believed every word she said, and not surprisingly, I was feeling down, not always hopeful that my dream was going to come true. I was feeling guilty. I would catch myself apologizing often to my husband for our lack of children. And I honestly, she did say there was something wrong with me and I was faulty and inadequate. And so, of course, I was feeling that way because I felt her words were the truth. Now, for confidentiality reasons, I almost never talk to anyone about who talks to me, but I am going to share with you guys in this podcast that woman who said all those things to me was myself. I was talking to myself and I was saying all these things to myself. That was my inner conversation. Those were the thoughts I was telling myself every day. Every day. And you know how I know now? Because I decided to pay attention to the mean voice in my head, to the inner conversation. How is that dialogue happening inside of me? And I did this one thing that I surely suggest to all of you to do. I had a pen and a paper and I wrote down the thoughts as they were happening. So what I would do is when I was feeling discouraged or hopeless or really mad at my body, I would stop for a moment and notice the inner conversation. What am I telling myself right now? And I actually wrote it down. And this is why I know with so much certainty the things that this voice was telling me. I swear to God, I did this work of writing it down about 2.5 years after trying to conceive, maybe even past that. And it wasn't until I wrote it down that I noticed how much my own mind was bullying me. I cannot recommend to you guys doing this work enough. The actual exercise of not just noticing and paying attention, but writing it down. I had these statements staring at me. And I remember having tears roll down my eyes, thinking, holy, 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 how can I be talking to myself this way? And also, no wonder I've been feeling so down. My inner conversation is not allowing me to feel anything else but regret, pain, anger, frustration, sadness, inadequacy, because that's what I'm telling myself and I'm believing it. So the first step to decode the mean voice in your head is to notice that it's there. And not just notice and move on, stop, write it down, write these thoughts down. And what I did, a second step, I took this a step further because I didn't just want to have awareness, I wanted to do something about it. And I know from my experience coaching people and doing therapy with people that the brain needs a lot of repetition in order to rewire their way of thinking. So what I decided to do was to grab each of these things that I was telling myself often, and I wrote an alternative thinking. So, for example, for the one that said, I must have been paying a karma from a past life, I sort of laughed when I read that one. I'm like, my extent of wanting to be mean to myself has gone beyond measures. Now I'm thinking there's past lives and I am paying something I've done there. So I forgave myself. First and foremost, I offer myself an apology for having been so mean and really looking for ways to make my already difficult infertility journey be even more difficult. And so what I decided to do was to rewrite and reframe these. So also pen and paper at hand, I rewrote another, or I wrote another way of looking at this. And I decided that I was not being punished, that I was paying no karma whatsoever, and that I was lovable regardless of my ability to become a mother or not. And this is something that wouldn't come as naturally to me at first because I was so desperately wanting to conceive that I felt wrongly that the more mean and the more I bullied myself, the closer I'll get to my goal, which was nonsense. But I decided that this process was already difficult. So if you're going through life and life is not going the way you want, that's hard enough. To make it harder with your own thinking by not befriending yourself is just, it's just unfair, and you don't deserve that. And so ultimately that's what I decided, that I needed to create new ways of thinking that were not mean but that were friendly. So I rewrote each of these statements in a way that was actually uplifting. And the easiest way for me to do it, which I suggest for you, is if you had a friend who was going through what you're going through, what kind of words would you choose to say to her? Because one of the things I noticed is that I'm not a mean human to anyone. Like, I don't have a mean bone inside of me. But apparently I did when it came to my own self. So that is something that I decided to reframe. Is if I had a friend who was going through infertility, would I be telling her all these things? And the answer was evidently no, I wouldn't. And this is what I will be telling them instead. And so this is what I coach women today through their fertility journey, but also through their anxiety journey and their self-confidence journey, is to reframe the way they're thinking to new, helpful, and friendly, and kind and compassionate thinking so that they feel better. And I immediately started feeling better. Like this weight just was lifted because I decided to befriend myself. And I asked myself, what ways of thinking will make me feel a little bit better about this painful life scenario? And so I did it. So step one, become aware. Step two, write it down. Step three, reframe the thinking of the mean voice. Step four, moving forward, give that mean voice a name. So I laugh because a lot of my coaching clients have baptized their mean voice, and we always go for names that are like, you know, names that you don't love necessarily, or that are sort of like if you think of the mean stepmother of a Disney movie, what was her name? And name her that. And the purpose of naming this voice is to separate it from who you are, because that's just a thought and that's not who you are. So it is helpful for us to have a name for this voice, and when that voice shows up, for us to say, oh, so and so is here, and not today, my friend, not today. I do not have the time for you today. My experience right now is too valuable. I need to befriend myself, so much so that I don't have time for you, mean voice. So separating yourself from the mean voice is important, because if you are like me, my identity had become one with this voice, to the point that I wouldn't even notice that it was the mean voice taking over my thoughts. Okay, so this is super important. I've seen this play beautifully for a lot of my clients when they're able to separate themselves from that mean voice. And I personally experienced it, and it was really helpful to do that. So try giving these things a go. integrate this into your life, see how that plays out for you, and start creating or planting the seeds, the intention that you need a good friend in your mind. Be the girl that's in your corner, the supporter that you want to be. Be the person that says, I believe in you and I believe we can do this together, and not the one that makes you doubt yourself. Like, are you sure you can do this? Do you really think people will love you this way? You know, just make the commitment to befriend yourself. I know I made that commitment, and ever since, my life has been a lot easier. I have brought my awareness fully to the idea of being Olga's friend, and not just Olga's friend, Olga's best friend. And so I think of my values as a friend to my friends, and how am I actually applying this to myself? And I know some of you will say easier said than done, but the fact is that is doable. We can befriend ourselves. We have done way more difficult things in life. And if you think about what the impact of being mean to yourself has, which is also a relationship that you form with yourself. So all we're doing is keeping a relationship with yourself, but we're giving it a better outcome, a better meaning. You're spending the same amount of energy in talking to yourself, except that you're correcting when the voice is mean. You're standing up to the bully and you're killing the bully with kindness. And you're saying, no, I no longer will call myself stupid. I no longer will stand by doubting my worthiness. Like, this does not work for me. It does not serve me well. And I'm going to jump into this energy of decision. And I am going to decide that I am going to be myself's best friend. It is doable. I've done it myself. I've coached hundreds of women to do the same. And they are becoming their best friends if they are already not that. So set that intention of becoming your best friend. Give the name to the mean voice. Not only give it the name, notice what she's saying, write it down and reframe it, and bring or think of better ways, more helpful ways of communicating internally. All right. I hope this was helpful. If you like this, subscribe to the podcast. Give me a review. This is so important to me, you guys, to be able to continue to bring forward subjects of interest to you. This is your podcast. This is what I do for you. All of these subjects are coming back from feedback I've received from you. So please keep it up. I am forever thankful to hear from you. And if you're not already, follow me on Instagram at olgas.way. And let's get connected. I want to hear from you. If you're listening to this podcast and we are not in contact right now, going to my Instagram and say hi. I would absolutely love to touch base with you. Talk to you soon and see you at my next episode. Have you been thinking that it's time to join a gym membership, only that for your mindset? Have you been wanting to be a part of a community where your self-growth is what's being supported? Do you want to have a life coach in your back pocket, easy to reach at any given point? If you've been thinking that this is something for you, Reset Your Mindset might be exactly what you're looking for. It's my newest membership program where you have me on a regular basis answering your questions, where you will get monthly mindset trainings with some of my best tools and most recurring theme subjects in my coaching practice. You will also receive a work along workbook to move along, and you will have Zoom group calls with me to get your questions answered and to process some of those heavier emotions that you just don't know what to do about. If this sounds interesting to you, check out my website at www.olgasway.com and look for Reset Your Mindset membership program. I cannot wait to see you inside.